Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. I had a really great guest on today. She's a board director at Eastside Cultural Crawl and an art committee member working on art and healing in the hospital environment. Please join me in welcoming Mira Malatestinic. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Thomas. I just want to correct you. I'm not on that board anymore. Just a quick thing. I did serve on that board for many, many years, but I'm not on there right now. But I am definitely on the Vancouver General Hospital Art Committee.
Great. Okay. Are you ready for 20 questions?
Sure.
Okay, here we go. Question one. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
I think, as I like to always say, as when I first met you, that I'm working very heavily on dolce far niente, which is the art of sweet nothing. But I never seem to quite get there. So that's one of my major things that I strive for myself. But as far as living here in Vancouver, I'd have to say that a little history is that I'm a first generation Canadian. My parents come from the country of Yugoslavia, now Croatia. And so I grew up in the east side of Vancouver as a first generation Canadian.
Great. And just a note for our audience, Mira and I just know each other recently through a previous guest, Zoran Jogel, who's a Vancouver staple on the Vancouver scene here. So question two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
That's a great. Your questions are great, Thomas. By the way, I want to say that to you for you, to you. The what key knowledge? I guess we've all got the little things that we know that make us unique. And speaking of Zoran, I was talking to him about his experience with your interview, and one of the things he was kind of saying to me, well, Mary, you do that art in a box in an alley. So I thought that might be what I focus on today, a little bit about that. So that key piece of knowledge is an idea that I had to bring art into the streets, and it manifests in my garage in a box as art in an alley.
Great, sounds cool. Question three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
I think it's always fun to work on projects, and I've always found art incredibly inspiring. I think that if we don't have art in our society, it's kind of then we're dead, right? So I think it's important to keep life in our streets and life in our existence. So art seems to do that for me. So I like doing those projects, and this one in particular evolved from another street project I did, which was projections onto my garage door in the old place where I used to live before here. And so I thought, how can I do that when I've moved? And hence not being able to do projections onto the glass windows of my garage door, I decided to have a box built and put art into the alley.
Nice. And just one more note for the audience. If you guys are interested in street art or graffiti art or any kind of making of that sort, check out our early supporter, Dr. Garnett Hertz. He is major in that space. So question four, we say is sometimes hard to answer, but the question is, what does your future look like?
Bright. I like to say it looks bright and positive. And I think that there's just so many things to do. Like, how do we fill all of the joys and fun and all of that into one lifetime? So I think it's bright. I look forward to a lot of travel. I look forward to sharing with people, and I think that's what makes things tick.
Great. And five, we say is unique to this show. The question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
I like the idea of place. Place is always interesting. Place and space kind of go together, right?
Mhm.
And you know, place, I think the idea of doing something in an unconventional space like an alley, or using spaces that we normally consider to be functional in one way and playing with that idea, I think is really is important. um, it brings, it stimulates our creativity. So the fact that we're I mean, I'm doing it in my garage in the alley in my place in Strathcona on the east side, and I think that that ties into a lot of art because we have a lot of art here. But what
Mhm.
I like about place in this context is that it really could be anywhere. Anybody could do art in a box in an alley,
Mhm.
right? So that's the kind of thing that when it comes to place, I think that's something to play with. I invite people to do that.
Great. Okay, six. If you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
I would say be brave. Be brave. A lot of times we as we're growing up and mature, we're afraid of things, or we don't feel secure about doing something new or trying things out, or we want to be the expert. Especially now, I think a lot of younger people. Oh, this is about me though, right? My younger self. Yeah, I would still say be brave. Do challenge things. Uh, Absolutely, right? Don't be afraid to try things. I think I had a lot of ideas and I held back because I didn't feel maybe I had the expertise or or the confidence to do it. So that would be the one piece of advice I give myself.
Great. Okay. Seven, what's a day in your life like?
Oh, wow. Okay, well, it's always full. I always seem to have full days. I kind of have to book down my downtime. I have a dog, so I am busy with her on an ongoing basis or making arrangements for her to be somewhere if she's not coming with me. My mother is also lives in this area where I am. So I'm always doing some caregiving, some running around, meeting with people. I think it's important to keep interesting people in your lives, and then you're never really bored.
Great. I love it. And lifelong learning is a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I would love to throw my cell phone out and never have to look at it again, but I don't think we can live without them, right? Um, Apps, everything. It's just, you've got to find out what you're interested in, try and stay on top of it. And it's also important, I think, having friends,
Mhm.
meeting with your friends, talking to your friends. That used to be a thing we did before technology. There was always a person that held a special type of knowledge. And I think now we often go to, our devices to look for that. And I think it's important to still keep in touch with your friends who are way more on top of way more information that's available.
Great. And tools. Can you talk more about digital versus analog tools?
Okay. Tools. Let me see what I was saying about that. Um, I still think that socializing is a good part of when we look at at our tools. I mean, I used to travel to Europe without any device, go into a coffee shop, sign in, do some emails and go. And now I think that's almost impossible to do. I mean, because we've got our digital right in our pocket, right? I think it'd be analog. It's interesting, like when we used to take photos, for instance, something as simple as a photograph, as analog, you thought before you took the image. And now with digital, we are editing après the image, right? So it makes you think a little bit differently. And I think we have to be it's important to be aware of that so that you know how you want to use these tools to support things you want to achieve, not to be a slave to them.
Mhm. Great. And 10, if you can talk about work-life balance or life-work balance.
Oh, that's a juggle. That's a juggle. I think now it's harder for everybody because there's so much information coming at us. So whether it's in work or whether it's in your regular everyday life, like now, I mean, nobody does anything for you anymore. You kind of have to do it all. Something as simple as booking a trip, nobody uses travel agents. I mean, I maybe do a little bit, but juggling things. And so I think what happens is we all become kind of jugglers and so it leaves something in the air always. You once you've got something in your hand, you focus on it, you do it, and then up it goes for a period of time until you can do the next thing. That's sort of what I do anyway. And
Okay.
so it balances out.
Great. Okay. And 11. If you weren't doing what you do now, what might you be doing?
Uh, let's see. If I was traveling, I'd be traveling more.
Mm,
I do travel, but I think I would do more traveling and probably similar to what I'm doing, but maybe in different locations. And the travel might be the first impetus rather than the project.
mm. And what would you not like to do with your career?
Um, hmm. I think working 9 to 5, I've done it for a long time. It provided a stability for me to be able to financially achieve some of the things I wanted to do. Even though it wasn't really soul fulfilling for me, those particular jobs. So I don't think I'd like to do that again. As I said, I kind of like project work. That suits me better. But I do respect all those people that, get up and do a 9 to 5 too.
Great. And how about a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
My favorite word of late has been focus because my mind gets going and I got a lot of things that are exciting. So it's sort of like, just focus, Mira, and that is helpful. And for a sentence, let me think. I often say that, and I think this is maybe a good sentence for me or for grounding me, that we all come from a village somewhere. And the only difference is how close or how connected we still are to that place.
Mm,
I think that's what creates some good conversation.
mm. Great. And how about a least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Oh, geez. There's so many things right now to not like. It's hard to pick just one. Um, I would say um, when people say stuff like do your homework, coming from a woke place, those kinds of things are kind of getting a little bit boring right now.
And if you were choosing one word to describe yourself, what word might it be?
Gregarious. I think that would be the word for me.
What keeps you up at night?
Pretty much nothing. I don't really stay up at night. I sleep very well. Um, I keep trying not to take the world too seriously. I think we have to keep reminding ourselves of that. And I've always been a very good sleeper. That's one thing that's good. If I could only make money from my dreams, Thomas, life would be very rich.
That segues nicely. What's a dream you're chasing?
Oh, I'm very good at dreaming. A dream I'm chasing right now, I guess, is just to have a lot of fun. I want to keep happy, good people in my lives. I want to have a lot of love and laughter. And I think that's sort of the main thing to focus on at this stage of my game.
Great. And final stretch here. What's a dream? Or sorry, what inspires you?
Oh, let me see now. It inspires me. Kids are very inspiring when they're not around their parents, because a lot of times today the parents seem to answer for children and stuff, but when they're genuine and you have time to actually talk to them, they come up with some pretty amazing, insightful things, especially because they too are just so exposed to so much so young and they have so many great tools to get their minds going at very early ages.
Mhm.
I do brainwash small children, as I say, at the art gallery, and I always find it interesting when I'm touring with them to see what they come up with. Space is also something I really am inspired by, particularly large buildings like, art galleries. There's something interesting about that, those places that are able to transform and to change. And so, be it through architecture or uh, the shows that are in taking place within them.
Nice. And any advice you'd like to share?
I don't know a very special person to give any advice to anyone, but I guess one thing we can all do is keep working on developing our intuition. I think that's something that we could all benefit from in the world.
Great. And finally, number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you? What's our call to action?
Oh, well, this is, I guess I'll do a little selling on that box space. If anyone is interested, I challenge people to go and create your own art in a box in an alley, maybe with your neighbors, your friends, whatever, just to have some fun, to do something a little bit different. And if you want to know what's going on with the box space that I'm involved with, which is actually artists referring artists to do an installation in that space in the alley, and then it's shown at a given time. And that is on Instagram on boxspace underscore art in a box in an alley. And that will, there's where you'll find the times and which artist is showing.
Great. Well, thanks so much for joining. We were at the Polygon in North Vancouver, and Soran was like, we need to have Mira on the show. And I was like, okay. And finally it's manifest. So super happy for this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Thomas. I really appreciate your inviting me.
Thanks.